On May 16th, U.S. President Donald Trump said in an interview that if China does not sign the latest trade agreement with the U.S., their economy would collapse. At the same time, Australian company Lynas Rare Earths announced major news. Their new factory has been completed and has officially started commercial production of heavy rare earth materials. What does this mean? The CCP's strongest card in the trade war, the rare earth monopoly, is facing collapse. The trump card they once held no longer seems threatening. On May 16th, Lionus announced a major breakthrough. Their factory in Kuantan, Malaysia, has successfully started commercial production of disprosium oxide. This officially makes Lionus the world's first company outside of China capable of stable separation and mass production of heavy rare earth elements. The factory is located in the Gebeng industrial area near Kuantan, the capital of Pahang State in Malaysia. It covers an area of 100 hectares. According to Lionus, the first batch of disprosium oxide was produced in the first quarter of this year. Why is the commercial production of disprosium oxide so important that Lionus made such a major announcement? The reason goes beyond a technological breakthrough. It represents a strategic breakthrough involving supply chain security and geopolitical concerns. Disprosium and turbium are core elements used to manufacture high-performance permanent magnets, especially in advanced materials like neodymium iron-boron magnets. These magnets offer high-temperature stability and strong resistance to demagnetization. They're widely used in electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, military radars, missile systems, submarine propulsion, and AI smart devices. From small devices like iPhones to large machines like fighter jets, disprosium and turbium may be small elements, but they are the critical heart of modern industry, especially in the era of green energy transformation and advanced defense upgrades. But the refining technology for heavy rare earth elements is extremely complex, and the resources are very scarce. Currently, over 90% of the global heavy rare earth separation capacity remains concentrated within China, creating a highly centralized supply chain bottleneck. Since 2023, the CCP has gradually imposed export restrictions on several critical metals, including gallium, germanium, graphite, and heavy rare earth elements like disprosium and turbium, citing national security and resource protection. These policies have quickly raised alarms among industrial powers in Europe, the US, and Japan. Almost all sectors, from electric vehicles and renewable energy to military equipment and AI technology, depend on these key materials. If China uses these materials as bargaining chips or even cuts off exports, Western countries' supply chains would face a severe material shortage, causing widespread impact from energy production to national defense. Their suspicions proved well-founded. The CCP has long viewed rare earth resources as bargaining chips, even weaponizing them as leverage to pressure and retaliate against rivals. This strategy has been clearly used in multiple international disputes. As early as 2010, after a diplomatic conflict erupted between China and Japan over the Senkaku Islands, Beijing temporarily restricted rare earth exports to Japan. This created a brief disruption in Japan's manufacturing supply chain. This move was widely seen as China's first use of rare earth resources as a tool for diplomatic retaliation. During the peak of the China-US trade war from 2018 to 2020, Chinese state media and senior officials repeatedly hinted that if the US continued to impose tariffs and suppress Chinese high-tech companies, China might consider restricting rare earth exports as a countermeasure. At that time, state media People's Daily even published a rare article stating, "Do not underestimate China's ability to retaliate. Rare earths are not useless." Additionally, during sensitive periods related to the Taiwan issue, Beijing also sent multiple signals involving rare earths, including threats to cut off key resource supplies to some countries supporting separatist forces. Although these actions were never formal policies, they were reinforced through media narratives and official statements, creating a strong international impression that the CCP uses resources as a weapon. As Western countries increasingly depend on green energy and advanced technology, the strategic value of rare earths has soared. The CCP is well aware of this and has used this advantage more frequently to exert political influence. At the same time, global mainstream media have amplified these risks, further heightening concerns over China's rare earth monopoly. For this reason, Lynas' successful commercial mass production of disprosium oxide at its Malaysia factory is not only a business triumph, but also a significant milestone for Western countries in achieving rare earth independence. Lionus is currently the only company in the world capable of large-scale rare earth separation and refining outside China. This move means the West has achieved partial technological and production independence in heavy rare earths for the first time. It also signals a potential reshaping of the global rare earth supply chain and a substantial reduction in strategic dependence on Chinese rare earths. Lynas CEO Amanda Lacasse emphasized, "The production of this on-spec DY is a significant step for supply chain resilience and provides customers with the option of sourcing product from an outside China supplier." She also mentioned that the company is currently negotiating supply agreements with customers in Japan, the US, and Europe. Everyone understands that supply chain diversification is a global trend, and Lionus is right at the forefront of this wave. Furthermore, Lionus plans to begin mass production of turbium oxide in June, further strengthening its leading position in the global rare earth market. In fact, Lionus has been processing rare earth ores mined from Mount Weld in Western Australia in its Malaysia factory since 2012. This new production line is just part of their global strategic layout. Their processing involves three main steps: crushing and leaching, solvent extraction, and final product refining. Their customers span East Asia, the US, and Europe. To support this development, the U.S. Department of Defense announced in 2023 that it would increase funding for Linus's new facility in Texas to $258 million. The plant is expected to begin operations in 2026, with the goal of building a rare earth supply chain that does not rely on China. In recent years, both the US and Europe have been actively promoting supply chain de-risking and decoupling from China. A series of laws and subsidies have been rolled out, aiming to establish stable sources of supply either domestically or in partner countries. Since taking office in January, President Trump has made rare earths and critical minerals a national security priority. In March, he invoked the Defense Production Act to speed up domestic mining projects and introduced a series of support measures, including loans, tax breaks, and industrial investments. In April, he issued another executive order, launching a national security investigation under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act to strengthen control over critical mineral resources. A board member of American Rare Earths and co-chair of the Institute of Critical Minerals, Melissa Sanderson, pointed out that while the U.S. actually has most of the 17 rare earth elements and 50 critical minerals underground, the real issue is the lack of industrial capacity to process them into metals or magnets. In an interview, she said the number of magnet manufacturers in the U.S. right now is 0. In early April, China announced export restrictions on 7 heavy rare earth elements. The move was widely seen as a direct response to President Trump's April 2nd decision to sharply raise tariffs on Chinese goods. Before the latest 90-day tariff pause was announced, the average U.S. tariff on Chinese products had already surged to as high as 145%. While some electronic products were temporarily excluded, it remains unclear whether the scope of tariffs will expand in the future. Sanderson said that the current administration understands the serious gap in our domestic capacity as it pushes forward development in the strategic sector. She added that this isn't just a play on words, it's truly a critical issue. In every aspect, the U.S. is at least 4 to 5 years behind. To address this, on April 2nd, President Trump officially signed an executive order directing Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to submit a detailed plan within 180 days. The plan will outline how the federal government should support the creation of a circular domestic rare earth supply chain in the U.S. The idea of a circular system goes beyond mining new resources. It also focuses on recycling rare earth metals, localizing processing capabilities, and fully integrating the supply chain from raw materials to finished products. The ultimate goal is to eliminate dependence on China and achieve strategic autonomy in critical minerals. The executive order makes it clear, critical raw materials like rare earths must never again be controlled by a country that could weaponize them at any moment. Especially now, as the trade and tech wars between the U.S. and China intensify, rare earths are no longer just about green energy and high-tech industries. They're vital to national security sectors like defense, aerospace, and semiconductors. Economist and columnist Antonio Graceffo stated that as long as the government significantly reforms mining permits and eases regulations, and both government and industry work together, the American industrial sector will follow. He put it bluntly, the short answer is if China bans the sale of rare earth minerals to the United States permanently, that's a positive thing, because it's going to force the United States to find a solution. Graceffo has long studied U.S.-China trade, and he pointed out that the U.S. already has several alternative options, including ongoing discussions for cooperation with Ukraine. He said, "Absolutely, we can overcome the problem. In the long run, if China cuts us off, industry will definitely find a way." An economics professor at the Colorado School of Mines, Ian Lange, also remains optimistic. He believes that even if the restricted rare earths materials are cut off, they are not entirely irreplaceable. He's heard that some manufacturers have even said they can continue production without those specific elements. He said that we'll have to wait and see whether this is a real restriction or just another hurdle we need to overcome. Over the past few years, we've been steadily building our own supply chain. In fact, we're not far from achieving true domestic production. At the same time, he also questioned whether China can truly sustain such export bans in the long term. After all, the U.S. industrial sector is the largest buyer of Chinese rare earths. His doubts have largely been validated. Financial reports from several Chinese rare earth companies show that both revenue and profits fell short last year, with performance clearly declining. On April 18th, industry leader China Northern Rare Earth Group released its annual report, showing a full-year revenue of around 33 billion yuan, down about 1.6% year-on-year. Net profit, attributable to shareholders, was only 1 billion yuan, a sharp drop of nearly 58%, almost cut in half. In 2023, the company had already seen a 60% year-on-year decline in net profit, signaling early signs of weakness. Another state-owned enterprise, China Rare Earth Group, reported even worse figures. The company expects to post a loss of 270 to 360 million yuan in 2024. In comparison, it made a profit of 420 million yuan in 2023, a year-on-year drop of nearly 46%. Now, it's not just about shrinking profits. The company has also fallen into the red. The simultaneous slowdown of these two industry giants reflects the multiple pressures facing China's rare earth sector in the current global environment. Industry analysts believe that rare earth price volatility is one of the most direct reasons behind the decline. Although some rare earth prices have slightly rebounded in 2025, China's export controls have made overseas demand highly uncertain, which has in turn dampened domestic market confidence. At the same time, the industry also faces long-standing internal issues. One major problem is overcapacity. In regions like Jiangxi and Inner Mongolia, earlier efforts to aggressively expand production to capture market share have now left many production lines running at half capacity, with serious inventory buildup. There's also cutthroat competition. Some companies, in order to secure orders, are selling at cost or even below cost. Over time, this has severely squeezed profit margins across the country. Adding to the challenge are rapidly rising environmental costs. Major production hubs like Baotou and Guangzhou have significantly increased their environmental spending, pushing up operational costs for companies, while prices have struggled to rise in step. Looking ahead, the overall performance of China's rare earth industry is likely to decline even further. It's clear that the CCP tried to use rare earth export restrictions as a way to counter the pressure from U.S. tariffs, but based on current outcomes, the effectiveness of this strategy remains highly questionable. In addition, although China has long been the world's largest producer and exporter of rare earths, holding a dominant position in the global supply chain, this image of a resource powerhouse hides a number of technological and industrial consequences that are now gradually coming to light. The first is the environmental cost. Much of China's rise in the rare earth industry came at the expense of the environment. Since the 1990s, China has carried out large-scale rare earth mining to capture international market share, but with little to no environmental oversight at the time. This led to severe pollution in many areas, excessive heavy metals, widespread acidic wastewater, and even radioactive residues. Baotou in Inner Mongolia is China's most important light rare earth production area, and also the world's largest rare earth oxide base. But years of large-scale mining and smelting have caused severe pollution. The most notorious example is a rare earth tailings pond known as the Black Lake, covering more than 10 square kilometers. It has long discharged wastewater containing sulfuric acid, nitric acid, ammonia, and radioactive substances. Reports from the BBC and Southern Weekly reveal that nearby villagers describe the lake water as foul-smelling and pungent, the land as infertile, and they note a rise in livestock death rates. In southern China, Ganzhou in Jiangxi province is also facing an ecological crisis due to rare earth mining. As a major production area, several counties in Ganzhou have suffered from illegal mining and crude ore washing. This has led to ponds turning red, farmland withering, and water resources becoming polluted. Investigations show that some villages have cancer rates far above the national average, earning them the label cancer villages. Even more serious, the underground water system has been contaminated over the long term, threatening residents' drinking water. The second major issue is severely lagging processing technology. Although China leads globally in earth mining and production volume, it falls far behind technical powerhouses like Japan and the United States in critical areas such as deep processing, high-end magnetic materials, and precision refining. For example, high-performance magnets used in military radar, electric vehicle motors, and aerospace equipment require extremely precise manufacturing. Most of these technologies in China still rely on imports or imitation, making it difficult to achieve a fully autonomous supply chain from mine to missile. In short, China controls the resources but remains stuck at the mid to low end of the global value chain. At the same time, the backlash effect is becoming increasingly apparent. In the past, the CCP tried to use the rare earth card to pressure the West, treating it as a bargaining chip. But the reality is that once China restricts exports, Western countries immediately begin decoupling and developing alternatives. For example, Australia's Lionus, America's MP Materials, and even India and Canada are building their own rare earth supply chains, with the goal of breaking free from dependence on China. The result is that China holds the resources, but struggles to sell them. Without technological breakthroughs, there's no clear path to upgrading. Finally, there's a gap in talent and innovation. Although China has led the world in rare earth production for years, it clearly lags behind in research and innovation. Many companies rely heavily on resource extraction for profit, leading to serious underinvestment in material science, magnetics, and metallurgy. Truly skilled experts in high-end technology are scarce. By contrast, Japan, Germany, and the United States have long integrated rare earth strategy deeply into future core industries such as AI, defense, and renewable energy. It seems that it's not the U.S. rare earth market that cannot do without China, but rather China that cannot do without the markets and innovative technologies provided by major powers. Overall, while China may appear to be a rare earth powerhouse on the surface, the reality is quite different. Environmental damage is severe, high-end technology remains bottlenecked, market mechanisms are distorted, and foreign demand is steadily drifting away. These are the real heavy costs behind China's so-called resource dividend.